Welcome everybody. We are here today, Shakti Cabral and myself. I'm primarily going to be learning from Shakti's wisdom, tuning into all of her years of experience, and I've brought some questions with me that I think many people listening will also find interesting. And we want to dive into all kinds of different topics. For this week, what we are curious about, or what's sort of on the agenda, is really the
Mm.
plight of healers that come to this planet and the fact that many healers actually are traumatized or incarcerated very early on as soon as they arrive. And they have to do a lot of work before they can actually get to the point of helping people. So, this is a topic which is very much in Shakti's realm of experience, and I'm curious to learn more about it. So, that's what we are going to dive into. Do you want to
Okay.
say some starting words on just that? Have I summarized the topic accurately, would you say?
Yeah, beautifully. Beautifully. Thank you. And yeah, the thing that I've been noticing for a few years now is this incarceration. So there's a lot of awareness around trauma and how to cope with it and what to do with it. But what I've noticed is that trauma just repeats until you get to the cause of it. And the thing that fascinates me and that has always driven me is to get to the cause of whatever it is that's showing up in my own life and in other people's lives. So that when you treat it way back where it started, um, all the other conditions of it start to die off. And the thing with trauma is that if it's not treated, it will just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And you can learn to deal with it and you can learn to cope with it. And that's all really good. But it's not going to go away until you actually get to the cause and you transform it. So I've been working with people with this for many years. And recently, as awareness expands in myself and also in the people that I work with, I've started noticing this these parts of their energy, parts of their soul that is just incarcerated. And when I say incarcerated, I mean that there's many ways in which this happens. That it's like part of them is in a space that's kind of like suspended in suspended animation, and they're just stuck and they're being targeted and they're either being like electrocuted, or there's frequencies being driven into them, or there's radiation being fired at them, or there's some kind of almost like torture that's going on with that part of the being where they're just frozen and they're unable to to free themselves. And what I find is that okay, someone else needs to go in and help this person to free themselves, because what happens is when that part of them is suffering, it creates trauma in your energy field, and then you keep repeating it, and it's like you can look at your life and go, well, I don't know where this has come from. You can look at past lives, and it's you can work back through all of those, but there are certain types of beings, healers, basically, Starfleets, people who came here on a mission
Yes.
to do certain things to free humanity, that have always done this. Like they're generally known throughout the universe, throughout the cosmos. It's our job. It's what we do, and we go around and you just free people's souls. But basically, before they even get here, that's when part of them is caught and then traumatized and targeted and incarcerated. So that when the person actually incarnates in this world, they start incarnating into trauma and have traumatic things happen to them that relate to that, because there's a vibrational match to it and it's present in their frequency. And they haven't done anything wrong. And a lot of the time, they it got them on the way in. So yeah, there are forces that, don't necessarily have our best interests at heart. And that's what we're looking at, and that's what we're working with. Um, and the key is to free that soul. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So many questions, but you explained it really
Yeah.
well. Thank you. So, my first question when you were speaking was, are there souls who have this, you know, purpose of light that avoid the incarceration completely? And are they actually able to do more or impact the world more quickly and more positively? Or is this incarceration process and the process of liberating yourself from that once you're on earth actually setting you up as a healer to be able to work with others even better because you've sort of gone through it yourself? I'm not sure if does it make sense what I'm asking? Like, is would it be better if this wasn't happening, or does it also have sort of a purpose?
Both is the answer to that one. Basically, when we're here and things start affecting us in a traumatizing nature, or in a painful, hurtful nature, it 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 encourages us to expand our awareness, to step even more into our power, to like raise our frequency even higher, and look even deeper. So we actually become more powerful. It's like putting a really heavy weight on somebody, and then they have to develop the muscles and the strength to move it and to
Yeah.
lift it and shut themselves off it. So it actually it has its benefits
Yes.
because it makes us even stronger. But no, it's not necessary. I mean, we don't all, you know, have to go through this, but my experience as it stands is that most do. As our awareness expands, um, I might find people that have slipped through the net, so to
Yes.
speak. But there's a field around this earth that just registers when new souls come in. And that's usually when they get tampered with. It's a certain frequency that's measured, and that's the job. And
Okay.
that's where we're found,
Okay.
basically.
That's where the
But
incarceration happens, like at that
yeah,
stage.
but I mean, yeah, but I'm still learning about this myself as well. Like consciousness is forever expanding, and it's forever changing and evolving, and there are levels of technology that we're not aware of that are used throughout the cosmos that are incredibly advanced. And what we work with here is really quite simple by comparison. So that kind of technology, it's far beyond the human mind. It's very it's difficult to grasp
Yes.
for the most, but it's very, 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 very high tech, and there are ways of measuring frequencies. So yeah, did that
Right.
answer your question?
It does. It does. I think, I mean, I've been hearing, or I've often heard, everything happens for a reason, and, it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. And, this sort of this narrative, especially in the spiritual world, that, you
Yeah.
go through the hardships so that you can help others. And I agree with that, and it makes sense to me. But on the other hand, I feel like it's not necessary to um there's some good terms for it, but it's not necessary to pretend that it has to be that way. Actually, it need, there is an alternative where people come in without this incarceration. And I'm wondering, what about somebody like, I don't know, somebody like Buddha or somebody like Jesus, or, these spiritual figures that came to earth throughout history. And it seems to me like pretty much from the get-go were able to do incredible things, do unbelievable healing. Are those examples of someone that you would say, skipped the incarceration or slipped through the net,
Yeah.
or how would you see that?
They all Okay, they all went through it. They all went through the dark night of the soul. They all went into, in the biblical terms, like Jesus went off into the desert and
Mhm.
he met with the devil, and there's and also in many traditions they take you through rites of passage whereby you will meet your darkness, you will meet your the pain, all the parts of yourselves that even believe that you can be tampered with and set upon.
Okay.
And like this has got a lot to do with the ego and or the monster mind or Witiko, where you believe that something can have a go at you, the victim mentality. That you've done something wrong because you can't remember it, you don't understand it, it doesn't make any sense to you, and that's you can let it in, right? Because you become like a match to it by being, you know, a victim to it.
Yes.
You can learn a lot about that and rise above it if that's where you're at, or your awareness can be, oh, okay, well, the reality is that that happened. How do I rise above it? Give me the solutions, inspire me. You can still experience those things and not be a victim of them, but be aware of them and rise above them, like confront them and talk with them and learn from them and really know about your power and really know where you're from, you know, because I feel that we're from the elements. This is my experience and this is
Yes.
my perspective. We're from the elements, and the elements of fire, water, air, and matter are our most ancient ancestors. And if we connect to them, they're the expression of source or the absolute, right? Which is consciousness, absolute consciousness, right? And when you connect to the elements and you use them, you connect to your absolute power. But most of the time, people don't connect with them because they don't feel that they need them. So they never know it.
Mm-hmm.
So people can be in like a slumber, like a sleep, and when you start to wake up and your awareness starts to expand, then you become aware of all things, seen and unseen. And you start to feel all of these things. And some of them might feel like they're having a go at you. They're not necessarily, but they might feel that way. And this is where you start to find out about all the different shenanigans that happen
Yes.
through consciousness and through creation. There's always a way through,
Mm-hmm.
and there's always a way around things. And source energy, it's always a step ahead,
Yes.
always. So you can always tap into that. You can always connect with the elements and find a power within yourself that is connected to that you can draw on and that can protect you and support you and teach you some really incredible things. So yeah, I mean, all of this can inspire you,
Yes.
and that's how consciousness really expands. But it's also worth being aware of the fact that there are forces that don't have our highest and greatest good, you know, in their hearts. They don't. They're not interested in that. They might
Yeah.
not support that.
Yeah, that could actually be quite a empowering or activating thing to know. Or I found since that's sort of come into my consciousness that, not everything is just love and light, and there are actually some bad things going on high levels. It's fueled
Mm,
in me this desire to be like, it's even more important what I'm doing, and I can't, I can't not do what I'm here to do. Like, it's important. There's a role for the healer, and I mean, I think people often move through different stages of feeling overwhelmed or feeling helplessness or feeling like, you know, I'm a victim. And then as soon as you realize the fact that there is something impacting or, trying to have negative outcomes for you, it can actually be fuel. You can actually use it, right? You can actually say, like, this is, I understand this is coming for me. And at the same time, once I can tap into these elements and the overall consciousness as you're talking about, it's yeah, it can be quite empowering, but My question
Yeah.
actually now is, how do you see the role of the healers who have perhaps already gone through that dark night of soul? So you're saying on the one hand, we all have access to this incredible power. And on the other hand,
Mm.
some of us are in this slumber where we don't realize we have access to. So how does a healer such as yourself or people in the same field as you, what is it actually doing to help people get out of this slumber? Can you maybe explain a little bit how you would take somebody who's perhaps you can identify as, has been incarcerated at a certain point on a soul level, has
Mm.
potential, wants to be a healer, but they're somehow not accessing it? What do you actually
Well,
work with or draw on?
they usually realize that something's not right in their life, or there's that feeling that there's got to be something more, there's got to be something better than this. They get tired of suffering. They
Mm,
get tired of things going wrong, and they have a feeling that they are better than they're actually presenting themselves in the world. It's just something's missing.
mhm,
And then they come to me, and then that's when we start, or they'll go to other like healers or therapists, and that's when the ball starts rolling. Yeah, and then there comes a time when you start to realize that you're more than this body, and you're more than what you do on this planet, and it's just a natural growth. You start to become aware of life off this planet and in the universe and in the cosmos. And when that happens, then you're not seeing it with your physical eyes. You're seeing it with the pineal gland, with the third eye, with your that super consciousness you start to tap into that, and your awareness all of a sudden grows massively, and that's when you're able to perceive these kind of acts that have been performed on certain beings. And it's usually the messengers, it's usually the change bringers, because they're a threat,
mm,
basically. So they're the ones that need to be stopped. So not everybody is going to experience that. It's usually the the healers, the people that are here for transformation, that are working with that. And I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know one healer that's actually had it really easy. When they really start waking up and they start looking inside, and it really is their job, they've suffered a lot. you know and of course there are people who think, oh, yeah, for a living I'm going to be a healer, and I'm just going to learn all this stuff, and like I'm going to get ChatGPT to write it all for me, but they don't have the experience, they've not
mm.
embodied it. The real like healers and transformational guides and therapists, and those people that are just, some of the, they can appear to be like just working in nature, doing regular things, but there's something about them that's really beautiful, and people want to talk to them, and people feel better after they've spoken to these beings. They don't have to like literally you know be in the umbrella of a healer,
Yes.
right? But they have all got things going on in their lives, and have things going on in their lives that they're constantly having to work with.
That makes a lot of
Keeps us on
sense.
our toes. But yeah, and the idea that because you're a healer, your life should be perfect, and because you're this wise being, your life should be perfect. It's not true, because it's not. That's the reality. But what does happen is you learn tools, and you learn how to use them, and you learn how to apply them, and it means that you get through things quicker. Things start to become easier when they happen. And eventually, there's a bunch of stuff that you'll stop feeling because you're not a vibrational match to it. But as your awareness expands, you're still going to become aware of other things that are going on in the cosmos. It doesn't stop. It's ongoing.
Yeah, so your ability to transmute just grows. You just have, your alchemical potential, your ability to take something and turn it into, to purify it essentially through your experience. That's the thing that changes, not the necessarily the level of challenge that's occurring in your life. That
Mm.
makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense. And I think it's something that confuses a lot of people that start out on a spiritual journey. And it also confused me that when I first started learning all these concepts, I thought, oh, but now my life's going to be great because I can hack life. I can, if this happens, I'm just going to think positive thoughts and then nothing bad is ever going to happen to me. But my understanding has evolved now or matured partly through working with you, largely through working with you, I would say, to understand that, yeah, just have more of a mature approach, that it's not necessarily that you're not going to be met with challenge. It's just that you're better equipped and what you can do with that challenge and how you can transform it and how you can actually, yeah, take something and give it
Yeah.
back to the world
Mm.
better than it found you, like that's really it, right? That's sort of the
Yeah.
the charm of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah. I mean, and when you look at the world that we're living in, you just have to look at the world that we're living in. Yeah, there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of people that are suffering, and there's a lot of beauty as well that's going on in the world. But I mean, really, to learn to learn the human experience and to be able to have empathy and compassion and show kindness when you really see what's going on is key. And you can't do that if you don't know. If you've got no experience of it, it can, we can have the attitude of like, oh, just get over it. Just get on, oh, just let it go. Well, how do you let something go if you don't know what it is? It just go, if you don't understand it, you can't, it goes round and round inside your head a lot of the time,
Mm.
if it's a big issue for you. So it's difficult to just let it go. And it stays there because there's more to it than that for you. There's potential for your own growth. And when you work that out, then of course you free yourself from it, you know. But yeah, there's many things in the world that as your awareness grows, your sensitivity grows too. So you become more sensitive to things. It doesn't numb you out, and that's one of the other things that misconceptions that people can have is when you start doing like this kind of work, life becomes easier and you stop feeling, well, once you've really transformed stuff up from a core level and a soul level within yourself, you're not necessarily going to be feeling that. You'll be aware of it, and it might still, you might still not want to look at those kind of things when they're placed in front of you in direct vision, but you do become more sensitive of other things. You start to become aware of nature and of the world and of the shifts that we're going through, and of solar flares that are coming from the sun, and the full moon, and other planetary alignments, and cosmic happenings. You just become aware of more.
Mhm. And would
Yeah.
you also say that your responsibility to take things on for the collective or to heal things for the collective or to carry things beyond just yourself increases the more you develop on your own path? So the more you've figured out your own things, in a sense, the more weight you can carry, or does it make sense? I'm not sure if my question is clear, but I mean you've
Yeah.
had many
Well,
years of this now to draw from.
there, yeah, there are certain things that we agree to before we get here that we'll do, and those are the things that we carry. And this is where the Akashic records come in really, really useful to, because that's where you start looking at, your agreements and your contracts. And, in order to come into a physical body, to incarnate into a physical body in this world, you have to agree to be here. You have to agree to the family that you're born to. You have to agree to the type of life that you're going to experience. And then sometimes when you wake up, and your awareness like expands, you start going, actually, that sucks. I don't agree with that. Actually, I'm disagreeing with this, and I'm done with that. So then you start working in the akashics, and you can start playing around with your agreements and what you now agree to, and fundamental universal and cosmic law applies, and you can start applying that to things like, now I've woken up, I'm not into that, and I disagree with this, and But then there are also something that I've come across a few times, not many times, but I am aware of there are these like devices that literally take the essence of someone, like the soul of someone, like in a laboratory, and inject it into this world. And they're like, I did not choose to be here. Like, I don't want to even be here, but they are. But they kind of like feel that they're trapped. And I work with freeing them up as well. And what usually happens with them is they kind of want to hang around and, you know, do their work, because they realize that actually they're they're powerful beings, and they can, help a lot. But it's a very interesting realm to look into. And I mean, discovering these kind of things and working with this really, really makes me tick. My first experience of looking into my own energy and healing, when I really started taking responsibility for it all, I went straight into black magic, right? And undoing black magic, and like undoing all the things that had been done to me from my own allowing, because I was functioning and I had functioned in victim consciousness, and all of this stuff was going. And I mean, I wasn't walking around thinking that someone was having a go at me, or my life. I was walking around going like, this isn't right. Like, how come I'm feeling like this? And why do I keep getting this feeling that I want to go home, but I don't know where it is, and I feel lost. But it was a feeling that used to like come over me, and I wouldn't be able to connect with where it's coming from. And it was a part of me that was shattered somewhere in the cosmos, in the universe, like part of my own soul that wanted to come home to me, but that was lost. But they were in trauma and they were suffering, and that bred that in me. And it didn't mean that like I was a victim, but realizing that I'm not, and that I'm an empowered being was the thing that turned me around. And that even thinking that I'd done something wrong, because why am I feeling like this, was victim thinking,
Mm-hmm.
for example.
Yeah.
And that was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, to get that thought into your head that where's the love gone? Like, what did I do wrong? I don't understand this. Got me, and gets many into that pattern of victim thinking. When really there's nothing wrong. There's
Yes.
just there's just potential for growth and awareness, and you know for the soul to expand, for consciousness to expand. And that usually comes from the resistance, from the weight.
Mm.
So at the end of the day, yes, the perspective you can take is that it's all good.
Yes,
And
it's a bit of a paradox, actually.
to happen. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
sometimes I think it's both. Like so
yeah,
many things are not as simple as it's either this or it's either that. It really depends the lens, it depends the perspective, it depends on the situation. And I think we live in a time where people like to have things wrong or right or good or bad. But most of our experience is not that. Most of it is, it's a lot more nuanced than that. It's a lot more layered than that. And it also, I think, depends on where you are at on your journey, because at an early part of your journey of awakening, for example, you don't understand how how much power there is in a challenging situation. You don't understand how you can milk that, how you can use that, how you can actually use that to help everyone, but also yourself. And later on you see, oh, okay, this challenge is coming for me. If I manage to get through that, what else can I do in the world? How much more people can I help? And fortifying a certain part of myself which feels vulnerable through a challenging situation, it starts to become, I don't want to call it a game, because that makes it sound like terrible things are not terrible. Terrible things are still terrible. But there is a way, and again, learning from you and with you has helped me to really conceptualize that there's a purpose to it somehow, or
yeah,
you can
yeah,
use it. You can absolutely use it. Maybe, maybe it's not a purpose as much as you can find a purpose in it if you know how.
yeah, yes, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And learning to master this human mind and not feed the monster mind, not feed the ego, not feed that which you don't actually want to succeed is key. We are having a human experience, and we can feed what we might perceive as negativity. Like if and if you want to know what it is that you're feeding, that just tap into your own feelings. Like, because you can feel it. If it feels good, go with it. If it doesn't, don't. If your body responds in a healthy way, and I'm talking about healthy feelings, I'm not talking about getting high. I'm talking about those feelings that are nourishing and
Mm.
wholesome in your body. When you have thoughts that feel like that, go with them. And when you have thoughts that don't, maybe you just don't need to feed that anymore. Or for the sake of therapy and that kind well, yeah, do look at it, do deal with it, do delve into it, because usually at the core of that there's treasure, there's something that you forgot. But in your everyday life, you don't want to be circulating that around and around and around, because you become your own worst enemy. And you become like too attracted to the thing that you don't want. You, and you can get so far down that road where it's a long way to get to the part of yourself that you actually would really, really love to be in contact with. And that part of you is the wisest part of you. So it's a case of like shifting your attention, shifting your focus, and training your brain.
Definitely. And I think that, well, in my own experience, one of the benefits of working with somebody who has more experience in these type of things is that you can allocate a time to go into the darkness, and the rest of the time you could focus more on, supporting those the good feelings or the feelings that feel good. So you're not bypassing it. You're not saying this doesn't exist and, I'm putting, something smiling, I'm putting a smile over something which is actually terrible. You're looking at it, but you're also not turning your whole life into you're not plunging into the darkness in every given moment. And I think, yeah, that's one of the benefits of having somebody holding your hand, working with you, that they can say, okay, we're looking at that, we're addressing it, we know this is important, but you don't have to constantly be in that state, because it's so easy to fall into thinking, you do it for a good reason. You're like, something is bothering me and I should look at it. But then if you delve and you dwell and you don't manage to get yourself back out again, then it becomes a problem, because then you're perpetuating it, actually. I find the line personally quite tricky, easier with time and easier with working with more people who support me. But I've often, in the name of trying to heal, I've ended up in some dark places because I've just been perpetuating this, yeah, density, when actually that's not what's
Yeah.
called for.
Yeah, yeah, it can be tricky. It can be tricky. But the thing to remember is, if you end up perpetuating those dark places and they're all you think about, they're all you talk about, you'll start to find that like people don't really want to hang out with you that much. Or they'll be the type of people that bring you down too. You end up having those like heavy conversations, and it's like there'll come a point where you just get a little bit sick and tired of it,
Mm.
and it needs to change. And that, I mean, those are all indications that, okay, I need to stop doing this.
Yeah.
This isn't working for me. And a lot of the time, I mean, I'm all for being real about the way that you feel, because, that then you can really look at everything. You're not bypassing anything, but you don't have to keep talking about it. You can just do something, take responsibility for it and do something about it. And go and see someone who can help you with it, who's well trained in whatever it is that is bothering you, and that you trust, or that's come highly recommended, and then transform it, like rise above it. You can use it to your advantage. There's always a flip side to the coin. There'll always be a light side to every dark side. So you can always make that choice of where you're going to level up, and what your building blocks are going to be made out of, heaviness or
Definitely.
light. So yeah.
Hmm. I think we said we're going to do sort of a half an hour-ish for this first talk. Do you feel that there's more on this topic to talk about today, or is there
We
somewhere
can talk
you'd
about
like
it.
to go?
We can talk about it next time. Um,
Okay.
I could talk forever about this kind of
Hmm.
stuff. So because there's I've got so much to say because there's
Yes.
so many different angles and ways of looking at things. But I'd love to hear other people's questions and experiences based around this because I can open up a whole I'm going to open up a massive conversation about this because there are so many different perspectives and all of them work, all of them,
Hmm.
all of them. It's just a different way of looking at things, but you're looking at the same stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a different angle.
Yeah.
So yeah, I find it really interesting. So yeah, we can carry this topic on for as long as,
Yeah,
and
I think it would
it will
be
snowball into other arenas anyway.
inevitably, I think it would be very interesting to see what part of this talk brings up questions for other people and, which aspects came up for someone as a, oh, there's something there, or I'm interested in this. And yeah,
Bound to
I,
trigger. It's bound to trigger some people as
yes,
well. I
it's
wouldn't
bound
be
to trigger, and that's good, right? Because that's actually how you know there's something to look at. Like if you're triggered by something, it's usually, if you're able to see it that way, it's a good indication. So I'm hopeful
there's
that
potential for growth there. Yeah, that's what
definitely.
triggers are. They're just potential for growth. If you
Hmm.
look at if you avoid them and you pretend they don't exist or you don't know do anything about them, then they're just going to keep coming around. But when you notice that, oh, I feel really triggered by that, then you look into it. You can grow from it. Always, there's treasure. There's treasure at the core. Same as with trauma, there's always treasure there. You know, when you get
Absolutely.
to the core of it.
When you get to the core of it, yes. That's
Yes.
that's absolutely the goal.
Yeah.
Well, this has been very enlightening for me. Thank you very much for answering questions. I'm looking forward to continuing this and to seeing what else we discover, seeing what people find curious, and yeah, let's wrap this
Yeah.
one up for today.
All right.
Fabulous.
You
Thank
for
you so
taking the
much.
time to listen and to ask the questions.